Hello, Freedom Healthcare family, and welcome to our member spotlight. I am very excited and proud to have Dr. Henry Ely with us today. He is the founder of the Energetic Health Institute, and he is affectionately known as Dr. H by those who know him. So, hello, Dr. H. Hello, Henry. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited. I'm excited to share what you're doing there. So, tell me a little bit about Energetic Health Institute,
Mm.
what you do there. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, Energetic Health Institute was is really it's my life's work. It's a place where it's the school I always wanted to attend, Julie. You get into the healing arts, you get into what we call the life healing sciences at the Energetic Health Institute, and what happens is the marketing for most schools is fantastic. They got the nice pictures of of people happy and healthy, and then you get into the school and it's like, what happened? What this is a bait and switch that happened to me when I went to medical school. It was just a total bait and switch, and so I said, okay, well, I'm here. I moved all away from one city to another to come here. I'm stuck now, right? So what I started doing was I started taking notes, and I started taking notes on some of the things they were doing good, because not everything was bad, but a lot of places where they can be improved. And the thing that came out of that was I want to make sure that the inside is better than the outside. So the outside looks good. I want the inside to be even better. So we have a very simple thing: graduate exceptional healers, and I want to help people heal the hurt that they have experienced and learn what life feels like when they're at their very best. I want to live in that world where we love each other. You know what I mean? Like, and so how are we going to get there if we're not openly goal oriented creating that? So EHI has become the school I always wanted to attend, from our nutrition certification to our detoxification and fasting certifications to now our artist cellular healing certification, where we have people who are at different places in their journey. You know what I mean? Like, we're all on this journey of life, but we're at different places. Some people are like, hey, I want to become a professional. Okay, jump into our holistic nutrition program. We'll show you to be a best professional out there. I'll put my graduates up against anybody's in the world. You know, detox, same thing. But detox is interesting because there are a lot of people who like, look, I don't know if I want to do this for a career, but I know I want to be healthy. I know I want this skill, especially with the chemtrails being sprayed in the sky and all that stuff, right? Well, we'll show you how to get that stuff out. No problem. And then you have the folks, and this art of cellular healing was inspired by everybody who got that shot and were almost killed by it. So we said, let's start helping these people heal and do the genetic, infections and things like that. And we've been very successful at that. I'm one of the few people in the world that can say I've helped people go from genetically infected and dying to completely healthy again, right? Like, that's a big deal.
Amazing.
But we also thought with that class, like, it's this, the principles in that class, in that certification program, Art of Cellular Healing, aren't just about the shots. They're about, if you've been diagnosed with cancer, we know the role that the shots are playing in that. Have you been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease? Have you been, I don't care what the diagnosis is. The principles to realigning yourself back into God's divine design
Mhm.
are the same, and the sequence and the process is the same. And so that's what we do. We teach people how to heal themselves, how to make themselves healthy again, right? And that's what it's all about. So I'm over the moon. The team is fantastic. All the students are beautiful. It's such a good vibe, on the inside. And the cool part about it, Julie, is we everybody comes from so many different walks of life, and everybody, we prove every day that as long as you have love in your heart, there's a place for you and a place where we can all get along. And I think that's what's beautiful about the Energetic Health Institute.
I love that. And that kind of goes into like what's the scope of work with what you do. But how did you choose this career path for this type of education and healing?
Well, I think we our life gets revealed to us.
Mm.
I think Abba has a plan for us, and when we divert from that plan, we get a couple. slaps up against the noggin. I got a big head, so right, like here, take a couple of those. But once you get on that straight way that the sacred texts talk about, once you get on into what Jesus talked about, and I love to refer to Jesus as Yehoshua, it's the way, and it's very simple. It's not for everybody immediately, but it
Right.
ultimately is for everybody at some point. And I think what happened for me was, my whole life, my first memory is actually about my interaction with a doctor making a house call. Back in the day when, yeah, I'm that old, where doctors
Where it
still came
actually
with the
happened.
the little
Exactly.
little black
The little
bag and
black bag.
yeah, and everything, right? Stethoscope and all that. And so I talk about that story actually in the Book of Questions, a new book that I have coming out. I think April 8th is when we're saying that it's going to drop, but it's very interesting. Like you go back, you get enough far away from when you were born, and you start looking back. You're like, wow, I was always walking in this direction. In 13, I got MMR shots to play football, and they almost killed me. They put me into acute renal failure and
Wow.
and severe neurologic distress. And I mean, literally almost killed me. I was being carried to the hospital by my father for, time after time. And I remember the conversations where they told him point blank, take your son home. He's going to die, you
Wow.
know, right. And then you're hearing that and it's like, wow, these people are crazy. Um, and so, you start going through those experiences, and ultimately, God's doing this wonderful guidance at all times. But I get to a seminal moment, going through my own healing process from a really incredible breakup, that ultimately really pushed me forward, to by the next year, my mother, dying in my arms, and you start having these experiences and you start going, okay, look, I'm an objective person. I will change my mind in the presence of new information. What I could not stop seeing was that they're killing us, that they are far away from what God intended in terms of the medicine and how to heal.
And how
That
old were you?
at that point, I was 20,
Okay.
20, yeah, about 26, 27.
So young to start seeing this.
Right. Well, you start, yeah, young and also old. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen a lot in my life. I'm not like, you feel bad for some of these kids nowadays. They've had no experience other than a screen in their face.
Yeah.
you know um but my mother asked of me to go back to school and become a doctor, and she asked of me specifically as she was transitioning, to help them.
Wow.
And I didn't understand what that meant when she said it, but I understand it much better today.
Yeah.
And so the Energetic Health Institute and this whole path that I'm on is about fulfilling that promise, to my mother, and of course to Abba as well.
I love that. I love that story. So this kind of fits into the next question I'm going to ask you because of what you went through and how you came out of that is, how do you think this fits into this new paradigm of health that we're creating?
I'm really blessed to do a lot of work with Dr. Brian Artis, Dr. Ed Group, and Dr. Jana Schmidt. With Healing for the Ages. It's been something that was beyond what I thought I would be doing, with my career. But but it's so incredible because you're talking about four really talented healers with their hearts in the right place, all coming together at the same time and having very similar backgrounds, but also enough difference in our backgrounds that we complement each other very, very well. But I think the true thing that we complement each other on is our spiritual connection, with the divine, with God, and understanding that like we were called to this service, and when we talk about our lives and where we were at different points in different years, it's easy to see that we were all walking towards each other this whole time.
Yeah.
And you start putting that kind of you start putting that kind of stuff together and you start feeling like, wow, all I have to do is the work. It's already been pretty much laid out in a good way, all I have to do is the work. Wow, this is pretty fun. And so for me, bringing in my engineering background into this and my curricula design educational background into this, and I'm a pretty, I guess I can say this now, I'm a pretty accomplished organizer and team builder, at this point. It's been really beautiful to see um, how many people on our team have love what they do, and believe in what we're doing, what we're getting out, and how incredible it is for all the folks that we've so far been able to touch. We're just getting started,
Mhm.
and show them that, listen, the way of pharmakia is the way of the Luciferian.
Mhm.
They
Sorcery.
their whole thing is about sorcery, and their whole thing is about sorcery because they they pray to a different entity that has no love in it. And you can see it in the lack of joy. You can see it in the fear and the insecurity and the need to control everything. You can see it. And the cool part is God gives you the freedom to choose that if you want that, but he also gives you the encouragement to choose something better. And
Mhm.
so what we're doing is bringing forth that which is better and saying to everyone, like, look at me. Like, I mean, I'm north of 50. I take zero pharmaceuticals and will continue to do so. I will not take and put that poison into my body, period.
Same here.
There is no scenario where I'm going to do it. If it's, I don't care, even pain meds, I'm just going to be in pain. That's what my body wants to do. The pain is part of the healing process.
Mhm.
Um, I have had zero surgeries. I can get on my bike right now and go and ride 20 miles, no problem. Um, I'm the same weight that I was when I was in college, decades ago. I mean, there's all these markers. So I'm at this point now where when I was younger in my career, people go, "Oh, well, you're just young. You just have good genes," and stuff like that. And I'm like, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know that I do, but thank you." But now that I'm north of 50, I actually have a resume, and my body is this resume. Like, let me show you how to care for this amazing gift that you've been given. Because when you know how to care for it, when you know how to interpret the sensations, and when you know when something's off, which part of God's medicine you can engage, that'll help bring your body back into a beautiful alignment. You know,
And I think that's the biggest part is what people have lost and never
yeah,
realized because we were lied to that God's nature and his nature is the only thing we need because that's the original design. Our original design and total healing comes from our creator.
100%. It's
You
built
know,
into every cell, right? Like,
it's yeah, it's all right there. So all of this sorcery, this pharmakia, and then you add big food and big pharma together for this evil symbiotic relationship.
yeah, you do.
And it's like, let's just keep you sick and then we just give you drugs. Well, the better way is the original way. The original paradigm is God's creation. We're born perfect. We have everything available to us in nature, but that's been
Right.
hidden.
Well,
But
right. And hidden is the correct word for that, right? So if we're getting into that and we're going to go in here, let's have some fun. All right. Because we all remember the time where our grandmothers would go into the backyard and grab some like dandelion root. I didn't know what it was at the time, but cut up the root, put it in the pot, and then, and then you're drink the tea and you're feeling better. And you're like, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Free medicine, right? It's all meant to be free. Well, there was an entity that did not want that to be the case, and that was Carnegie. Before he passed away, he charged
mm,
Abraham Flexner with going and
yep,
and setting up all of the natural schools for failure. That if you're not willing to teach what we are going to tell you to teach, if you're going to insist that you want to teach the medicine God intended, we're going to put you out of business, because we're going to make sure your graduates cannot be licensed and cannot sit for exams, and that you're basically, you know, who's going to want to go to your school at that point if they can't earn a living afterwards. So they attacked at the fundamental core of it all in
Yeah.
1910, right?
1910. Yep.
1910 Flexner Report. And of course, that gets used immediately by the Rockefellers, and Nelson Rockefeller. And when you start looking at the Rockefellers, what happens with that is they go, okay, well, we know we're poisoning people with the pharmakia. We know we're poisoning them with petroleum products, but
Yeah.
we want to make sure, just like a vampire, that we poison them slowly, not enough for them to die, but we want to extend their life so that they're constantly a customer of ours from birth to death.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
we're seeing right now, in my opinion, and of course, this is subject to change based upon events, but right now what we're seeing is the death of Rockefeller medicine. And I'm really excited about that. It's been around for 115 years now, and its track record is thusly. We spend more money, by double what any other country spends on healthcare, for by far the worst outcomes. Over 80% of our population is overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. That's adults. And when we get into children, it's now over 42% of our children are the same way.
Wow.
And so when you start looking at the top three leading causes of death: heart disease, cancer, and then the third is a white coat. It's a doctor.
Yep. Yep.
This you can't make that up. And if you were to include abortions as a cause of death for the white coats, it would skyrocket to the white coat would be the number one cause of death. And we pay, whether they do a good job or not, they still get paid, which is absolutely bananas to me, but they get paid. So there's no incentive to change what's going on. In fact, there's every incentive to not change.
Getting paid for the shots or the drugs that they're handing out, getting paid for that.
Right.
And
so
once you get used to the money, how hard is it to let go of the money?
Well, what's tied into it? All the money. Now you got the nicer house. Now you got the nicer car. Now you got the relationship that was predicated upon having those nice things. You know, so now you are a part of that system, whether you have an epiphany or not, you are tied into that system. I was just watching something yesterday, a little video, and I was like, you and me, we usually see things differently than the rest of the world, right? But it's a video of a doctor who spent her career, lesbian doctor with 3 adopted children, who spent her career in encouraging and teaching gender reassignment, which is like, first of all, gender's made up. You can't not be a boy if you're born a boy. And the whole lie of it is that you were born into the wrong body. Every time I hear that, I'm like, prove it. Just prove that. That is the most asinine statement you can make outside of vaccines are safe and effective. Prove what you just said. How do you prove that you were born in the right? Well, I just feel that way. So is that like telling me you feel color blue today or something like that? I mean, you're talking in psychotic ways to me. I want to know what medications are you on, because there is suicidal ideation mentioned in many of the inserts with these medications. It's a sorcery, right? So,
and it's also to take away your image that you were made in our Creator, in God. So let's lie to you about who you really are in the Father.
Oh, of course, because if you look through the sacred text, what are they going to constantly refer to us as? Portion. You're going to see the word portion again and again and again and again. And it took me a while to figure out what they were talking about with portion. I did not get this. And one night I broke down when it finally dawned on me what portion meant. Portion, you are a portion of God. That's what the ancients in their scriptures are talking about. You are a portion of God. So if that's the case, God doesn't make accidents, doesn't make mistakes. You could never be a mistake. You could not be born into the wrong body. God doesn't make that mistake. You were born into the exact body you needed to be born in so that you could learn the things. Now, you've got the devil in who's twisting all this up right now. and you have drunk the poison of
Right.
it. And as soon as you do that, well, you've been poisoned. Now what do we have to do? We have to adsorb that out and unpoison you. The worst time to realize you have been poisoned is after you have been poisoned.
Yeah.
And this is where you see all these stories, because this woman I was telling you about, she had an epiphany. She had an epiphany that what she was doing was wrong. And she's speaking openly out in public about this at an event. And she's saying, I did this for multiple years and I was wrong. This is not correct to teach this and to practice this and to sanction it. She's like, I now help people or transition, I think they call it detransitioning. I help them detransition. I'm like, okay, that's great, and I'm glad you had the epiphany. I'm glad you were touched by God and you saw the light. I'm super glad. It doesn't change the fact that you did openly destroy people's lives and teach
Right.
people how to destroy people's lives as well. And so I'm not going to sit here and give you a high five and hail you as a brave hero for changing into what was obviously the right answer from the beginning if you were being objective from the start.
Right.
I'm not here to judge you, but I'm not here to say, hey, it's all forgotten now. We're all
Right.
good. It's just, and that's my same approach with all these vaccinologists out there. I'm like, you do realize that it's a cult, a religious cult. I have
Right.
to say this all the time. It's called the cult of Asclepius.
Right.
Openly admit that it's a cult, a religious cult,
Right.
and you are sitting here acting like they are scientists.
Right.
Guess what scientists are not a part of? A religious cult. Scientists are just curious people who ask questions and then start to explore the mysteries. This is what the ancients called the mysteries of God's divine universe. That's what a scientist does. So, yeah, no, you can go have fun with that cult. I got into an argument with a bunch of pro vaxxers last night. I'm like, I just wish you guys would just finally shut up about it. You lost. It's over. Right. Um,
It's
you
all been proven. Like, come on, you guys.
Right. The question I was asking him was, explain to me exactly how the ingredients in a shot make you immune, how they confer immunity. Explain it to me. And none of them can. And I'm like, see, this is the problem. You are so lost in the illusion that you haven't asked the most basic question. How does mercury, how does aborted human fetal tissue, how does fetal bovine serum, how does aluminum, how does red dye and yellow, how do those confer immunity? And you can't answer that because they don't. What confers immunity isn't a shot. A shot is an artificial infection at best. What confers immunity is the immune system God gave you.
Right.
That's why it has its name, right? And if that's the case, guess what? I don't need your artificial infection. I don't need your bioweapon. I'm
Yeah.
good. When I come in contact with it in some muted form of itself out there in the world from shedding or spraying the dang sky or whatever,
Mhm.
guess what? My immune system's going to kick its butt. So I'm not worried about that. So, because this is where their whole thing falls apart. If you don't get the shot, you're going to die. Really?
Right.
How about if you get the shot, you're going to die?
You're gonna die.
That's
Right.
the truth,
And
right?
that's what's so sad about this last 115 years when Rothschilds and Carnegie and Rockefellers, all of this happened in the Flexner Report, how much people have been lied to. And thank God that some people are starting to wake up. But what it's done over time and the lies that the doctors were trained in with the pharmakia, the
Right.
sorcery, and what we've had to deal with where we didn't know any better. None of us knew any better. Like we were just in this system that we'd been trained in for our entire life. I mean, if I had known, I would never have given my girls the shots when they were little. Thank goodness there was only a few back then, but I would
Right.
never have done that.
Right.
We didn't know, but now we know. And
Right.
once you know, you can't unknow.
Once you know, you can't unknow.
And it's like I'll never forget this. Funny, I don't know if I ever told you this, but
Mm.
and then I'll go on to the next question was when we were fighting for everybody in Arizona with the things that we were doing.
Right. Right.
And it
Right.
was getting towards the end right before we started Freedom Healthcare. And I had a pharmacist call me from, I think it was from Walgreens. And somehow he got my phone number. He calls me and he's like, I need an attorney. I need an attorney. And I'm like, who are you? How did you get my number? Like, what do you need an attorney for?
Right.
Well, I'm a pharmacist. I have to give these shots. I don't want to do it anymore. I know it's in them and I need an attorney. I need help. I need to, I need help with this. And I was silent for a second. And I said, no, you don't. I'm not going to give you an attorney. I said, because you're just going to stop giving the damn shots. That's what you're going to do because you know exactly what you're doing to people and you know that those shots are killing people.
Right.
I'm not going to help you. You're going to stand up for
That's
the
right.
people and not give them the shots.
That's right.
And silence on the phone. I'm like, we're done. I'm not gonna coddle your baby. You're gonna stand up to what's right and you're
Yep.
gonna help people. And at least people waking up are starting to see this, thank goodness. And like with what you're doing at EHI, is there's ways to now heal from what's been happening and getting people to that place of healing. And that's like as we come together, I mean, you're on our board and we promote EHI and the things that we do together. It's like this is how we take the new paradigm forward, or actually the original paradigm, because this is
The
God's
original, right.
the original paradigm, because this is God's baby and this is where we start, but this is where we take people back to is true healing in his nature, big N, but then his nature meaning creation itself. So tell me how you and EHI, tell me how you collaborate with Freedom Healthcare. Like, what do you do with us and our members? How does EHI collaborate with us?
Well, thank you for that. Before I get into that, I gotta say that's the perfect way to say it. What do they always want to tell us? Well, you're not a doctor. You're an alternative doctor. No, 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 no. I'm an original doctor.
Right.
I am what crazy doctors who believed in herbs and sunlight and
And
nutrition.
spices and roots.
Oh, yeah, all that crazy. That's not science. Yeah, it's totally science. What it
But
isn't, it's not a
but like
religious
with you,
cult.
with what you put even on when you talk about it, what you put on the website, when you speak about things, it really is being a healer and
Right.
calling people healers. And this is where we really are calling out for the healers in the community across the country, because we are going to raise up and create healers, because
That's
not
right.
only can we heal ourselves, there's going to be the teaching and training to unpoison the minds of the practitioners that have been poisoned with pharmakia, to bring them back to the place going, let me show you how to heal people. You're going
Right.
to help people heal.
Well, you said a couple of things there, and you said something earlier about that what the Rockefeller medicine wanted to do was to hide, to put into hiding. And that's by definition the occult, what to hide or what is hidden. And so what we're talking about is at the Energetic Health Institute is evolution. And evolution means to unroll or to unroll into the light, to bring it back to the light. And so there's this bridge that we're building to the past, but we've learned a lot, just because this is why God's so good. Just because your medicine is evil in its intention doesn't mean there isn't something to be learned from it, something that can actually be co-opted and used for good. And
Right.
so there are some things that they've done, some of the blood tests and some of the imaging and some of that stuff is great. Yeah, let's use some of it, not the contrast. We don't want any contrast in the imaging. And we want to be able to know how to detoxify the
Radiation.
body. Yeah, you can keep that radiation. If the only radiation I
Radiation.
want is from a little baby smile and the sunlight, I'm good. After that,
Sunlight,
I'm
that's it.
good. Right. But what ends up happening is that when we talk about the word healer, when you look at the etymology, the energy of the word, a lot of people don't realize this, but Jesus was the inspiration for the word. So when you go into that etymology of why did this word come into being, it's said to be Jesus like. That's what the whole thing of being a healer is, that you're saying, I am not here for me. I'm here to help. I'm here to do for everyone. I'm here to do God's work.
Mhm.
And I think that's why, like you said, I have taken that word, and said, like, it's going to be a part of my vernacular. It's how I refer to people. What's up, healer? Like, Every Thursday and Friday when I get together in master classes with my students, it's always "What's up, healers?" Like we all openly refer to ourselves as this because that was a word when I was coming up in my earlier years that was made fun of. It was oh, you're a healer,
Sure.
and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, well, maybe for folks that don't know what they're doing, you can make fun of them. I don't know why you do it. It kind of makes you look like a jerk, but you
Because it
know,
was
um,
turned upside down.
because everything was just turned inside was out, black was white,
Right.
all that stuff. So for us, when we start talking about this collaboration, which gets really exciting, is it's, I have a poster over here with Bruce Lee on it. It's a lesser known quote of his, or at least it's something I've attributed to him. Our education is the art of fighting without fighting.
Hmm.
And I think it's brilliant. And he was one of the things folks don't know about him is he was a pretty prodigious author and reader and researcher. And so he's founded his own fighting system, Jeet Kune Do, but he founded it on principles, not on techniques and things like that. It was understanding and so he was always about education. And for me, my heroes are writers and fighters like that. Those are the folks that I really gravitate to, the folks that are bringing love and light and logic, into this world. And it's like, yeah, they might have little bits and pieces where you're like, well, I'm not sure about that. It's like, you know what? Are you sure about what's in their heart? Because if you're
Mhm.
sure about what's in their heart and what's in their heart is good and love, then trust me, the little stuff doesn't matter. You know what I mean? What matters is what's their soul intention. And I mean that SOUL. What's their soul intention that they're bringing into the world? Is it good? Because if it's good, then God is present, right? And let it be. And so with our collaborative work together, for me, it's about saying, well, what do we need to do to support the education, of people, whether it's a professional or whether it's a parent? What do we need to do to support that understanding? Because when we support that understanding and that education, what we're truly educating, yes, it might be on nutrition, it might be on herb, it might be on some modality of healing, right? But what we're really educating on is the reestablishment of the relationship of faith with your creator. That's what
Mhm.
we're really getting into, is that everything we could possibly need, we have been given, and most of it already lives within us because we are made up of him. And this is where you get into, one of my favorite things I've come across in the last couple of months is, and all at once, he was everywhere. Because when I first heard that, I was like, it makes perfect sense. God is all around us. God is a part of everything we are, but more truly, we are a portion of Him.
Mhm.
And what's so exciting about that is when you get goosebumps right now, when you when you have that understanding of it, of this relationship, what it does in my not only opinion, but my visceral experience is it turns on latent healing apparatuses within your body because you're acknowledging him. And he doesn't ask you to acknowledge him. It just makes logical sense to do so.
Right.
Why wouldn't you acknowledge someone who loves you more than anyone else? Right?
Right.
That just it doesn't make logical sense to ignore. So to ignore him. So when where we are aligned is in that understanding, our two organizations, we are in that understanding. And I'm not here to preach a religion to you. Your faith and your relationship with your creator is your business, and it should be sacred and it should be private. It's for you and him. But how can we help enhance it? How can we help you get to that relationship? Because I talk to a lot of people, Julie, I know you do too, where that relationship is broken,
Yeah.
right? And it's sad every time you hear it. Like I've talked to people in the health freedom movement who have been like openly with me, like, I don't believe in God. And I'm like, hold on, stop everything. I don't care about what we were talking about on either legislative or legal or other. Stop. We're staying right here.
Right.
Tell me what has happened to you where
Right.
you feel that way about your father. Please tell me the story of how you got there because I want to be a part of I must be here because God knew you were going to need an ear and somebody who could reason with you about love,
Right.
you know? And I think that's where it gets really exciting, teaching people, educating them so that they don't have to feel like they have to fight everything to be that
Yeah.
which they are. You don't have to fight to believe in love. You don't have to fight to express what is right. You don't
Mhm.
have to, but you do need to be able to produce energy so that somebody cannot knock you off that belief so easily. Nobody's moving me off the mountain I stand on. I stand with God. Nobody's moving me.
Yeah.
And for better or for worse, I'm okay with that. But I think what happens for people who are seeking the way is that that becomes attractive. Like, hey, I don't know how you got there. I wasn't always this way, but
Yeah.
and I don't know how you got to that place of this deep conviction of faith,
Yeah.
but I'd like to. And maybe you can teach me a little bit, and maybe my process won't will be unique to me because it will. But maybe something that you did helped to unlock this little piece and start this incredible cascade of events that's going to lead me to my divine purpose for being here. And that's to me like, wow, I get to participate in
Yeah.
that with somebody. Are you kidding me? What else? That's as close to having a new baby coming in the world and the amazingness of that as you're ever going to get.
Well, and you said something too. I mean, all of it really does come down to, and it starts with love, because God is love, which means
Mm-hmm.
we love. And that love piece starts that softening of the heart, which starts building on the fruit of the spirit. So love, joy, peace, those things just start coming. And even when you read those words, like if you look at the fruits of the physical part or the fruits of the spirit, even saying the words, you
Mm-hmm.
feel a peace in your body, love, joy, peace, patience. There's something there. You automatically start coming down. So if you can start in that place of love and just share that love with people, everything else is going to go from there, because he is love. He is the healer, and he brings us everything we need, because our life force literally is the Holy Spirit and him. So we
Yeah.
are, like you said, it's a portion, it's source, it's who we are as part of him, made in his image. So we have every right divinely to be healthy and to be healed, because he is perfect. He is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely perfect, and we have every right to be also. It's just been hidden, but it's all getting exposed. So it's cool, and I love that you weave that in, and I appreciate you as a healer and teacher, that you weave that into what you teach your students and you teach your classes, because there's not schools out there that are teaching what love looks like inside of education, or what a spiritual
Mm-hmm.
attachment is inside education, or the pieces, what it looks like for that bridge between science and the biblical piece, or the divine. there
Right.
there has to be that bridge that's in there, and that starts everything. And I love that, because we look at all the classes that you have and the collaboration that we have with Freedom Healthcare. And as Freedom Healthcare grows, and as we start raising up the healers and putting them in positions out there to have these classes available that you have, that are nature based and holistic and healing in source, but then also come from that place of love and joy and peace. So they're getting the whole thing that they
Yeah.
need. They're getting everything. And it's just a great new building block as we build this new paradigm of education. It's like
Yeah.
all of these pieces work together. And it's really fun seeing, you know, all of the pieces together.
Yeah.
So what key point or takeaway would you like to share with everybody today? I know I want to hear about the book. You have a book coming out. And then also, what else, what final takeaway would you like to share with everybody that's watching?
Yeah. Well, first, I think is to express just extraordinary gratitude, for you and for the work that you've done. You hear the call, and just because you hear the call doesn't mean you're going to do the work, but you're someone that that consistently has done the work, and now we get to have these type of conversations, you know what I mean? And I'm somebody who's consistently done the work. We get to have these type of conversations, which are hopefully uplifting for people who are watching it. Like, hey, yeah, I feel that, and all I have to do is go and do some work that is already laid out for me to be able to start to step into that. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Like my teachers did that for me, and then I'm hoping my students will become teachers that will do that for future generations as well. Like we pass this on, this beautiful thing we've been given. In my first book, Energetic Health Volume 1, it starts with actually something that I don't haven't talked about a lot, but it's really important. It's important now as when it first came into me, which is I believe in each one of us lives a healer.
Mhm.
And that's the place that I work from, is that within every person there is some good. Yes, even like a Bill Gates. Now, that doesn't mean everyone's going to realize it in their lifetime, but it does mean that the potential is there. And I'm always excited about what the potential is, as a teacher. What can we create? What is possible? It's possible for us to live in a world where we love each other. It's possible, but we have to be dedicated to the creation and then protection of that world, and that's where you start to see people wane in their conviction is like, oh, I don't know if I want to do the work, and then I don't know if I want to do the work to protect it. Well, I would do the work to protect heaven, like that makes sense to me.
Right.
So when one of the things we say at the Energetic Health Institute is a healer restores God's divine order. that
Mm.
that health is order and disease is chaos. And I think
Yeah.
the big message for everyone is there's a healer living within you, and you have the ability to nurture that healer living within you and become an incredible version of who and what you are. And you have an incredible ability to fulfill the hope that God has for you, and why you came into existence in the first place. It wasn't by accident. God doesn't make mistakes. It was with a
No.
supreme belief in you that you have this ability. And for me, it's fun to be one of the many people on the planet that gets to help bring that forward, because somebody did it for me as well. And you get to pass it along. It's a beautiful design. All of it, all of existence is a beautiful design. And only a truly loving being that gives us both freedom and still wishes the best for us would create that. And that's, to me, like I said, these folks, that these little demigods running around here that think they're so hot and everything because they have some imaginary numbers associated with their name and stuff like that. I'm like, you didn't create light. You didn't
Right.
create the known universe. You didn't create, a leaf and the ability to grow. You didn't create a seed that when water touches it with a little bit of nutrients, that it starts this magical thing and grows into this massive. You didn't create any of that,
Right.
So how about a little humility? How about a little humility? Because when you allow yourself to be humble, you get to look up at the stars at night in absolute awe
Mhm.
of the blessing that we have that we call life. And I think for all of us, Julie, for me as a teacher and a healer, it comes down to, I'm so grateful to be able to have this moment and to be able to participate in this existence in the way that I am. And I'm grateful that God was patient with me. And I'm grateful that God guided me. I'm grateful that God never gave up on me. And everything, I can keep going down the line because I could have been given up on a long time ago. I was not a good dude, early on, but there was still goodness in me. You know what I mean? And that's where I think, you know, where would we be without Abba just hugging us at all times
Yeah.
and cheering for us? And still the cool part, because everybody's like, well, why does God allow this? It's like, God didn't allow it. We did. God gave us
Right.
free will. Do you
Right.
understand the incredible gift that is? Because
Mhm.
God said, I don't want you here unless you want to be here.
Right.
right? I'm not going to force you to be the best version of yourself if you don't want to be the best version of yourself. I'm not going to force you to do it. I love you enough to let you figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
What an incredible, I mean, how incredible is that when you get down to it, right? And that we get to now be the teachers of that way in some small, very humble way. It's a
For
beautiful
such a
honor.
time as this, right?
It's a beautiful honor that we are in right now, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. So before we go, tell us a little bit about the book.
How the book. So all right. I'll tell you a little part of the story that didn't make the book. I'm on a train coming
What's it
back.
called? What's
Well,
the book
I'm
called?
terrible at marketing. It's called The Book of Questions. It's coming out April 8th. So we'll be doing a big kind of thing, Healing for the Ages, Energetic Health Institute. We'll be pushing it out there. But yeah, The Book of Questions. I was on a train heading back from New Orleans in October of 23, I think. And I didn't get myself a room, they didn't have any rooms on the train. So, I was sleeping on the coach, kind of just in the chair, and it was uncomfortable and everything. And I was just like, H, I was getting upset with myself. I was like, see, this is what happens. You're terrible at logistics. You should have gotten your room a couple months ago. You knew you were coming out. You waited till the last minute and blah, 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 blah. And all this like internal negative dialogue going on. But it was like real early, this right before the sun came up. And I was like, all right, I don't feel like doing this. I'm going to go wake up and just go into the observation car. So I went and got in the observation car, and the sun started to come up. And you're looking out on this grandeur, and there's these beautiful mauves and purples, and you could see the midnight sky starting to fade away. And it's awe inspiring. You get the oranges coming in, all these colors coming in, and you start going, wow, effortlessly God is showing off. This is so beautiful. And I'm taking this in. I'm not an early riser, so this I don't get to see a lot of sunrise. I'm a late night owl, so I don't get to see this. So I'm like in jaw drop mode. But I get this thing starts coming in. When you start getting the touch of God coming in, and I was like, open up your computer and start typing. And so I opened up my computer and I started typing, and something flowed through me and onto the keyboard. And it was so beautiful, Julie, that I knew it wasn't something I had written. And I started tearing up. It was so precious. And I took a picture of it, and I texted one of my really good friends and sent it to her. And I was like, what do you think? And luckily she was up. I don't know why she was up, but she was up, and she's like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Right. And the next thing I know, I'm looking up at two EMTs. Apparently, and this is from that MMR shot when I was 13, I have seizures occasionally. And I went into a full seizure on the train right after I'd finished writing all of it. And I woke up. I had a really lovely woman. I didn't catch her name or anything like that, but I keep telling the story in hopes that I'll meet her again. But this really lovely, grandma was holding me, with my head and just petting my head and everything when I woke up. And I was like, oh my God. First, I was like, oh my God, where's my not am I dying or anything? Where is my computer? where that was my first thought. Like, where is my computer? Tell me you saved what I did. And she was like, yeah, we saved it. We made sure and hit save, and before we closed it. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I had these like pads on, they were doing EKGs on me or something. And I was just like, and I like tore them off, and they're like, what are you doing? Don't you want to come to the hospital with us? And I was like, no. And the conductor's right there. And he was like, you don't want to get off and go to the hospital? I was like, no, I'm a doctor. There's nothing they can do for this. They know there's nothing they can do for this. So let's not pretend. Just let's hit it on down the road. I'm fine. And the conductor looked at me and he looked at the EMTs and he was like, all right, then. And he like went back and they started the train up and got the EMTs off and everything. And yeah, I think it was in Alpine, Texas, where they did that. And
Wow.
yeah, so that was a good omen. It doesn't sound like a good omen to people, but it was actually a good omen. If you study certain creative folks in the world, they'll have a download and then they'll go into a seizure. Mozart had this. I'm not saying I'm Mozart,
Wow.
believe me. Quincy Jones had this a lot. There are certain, if when you get into their health histories, people will download and then they'll go, it's too much sometimes for the nervous system and they'll just wig. So that was me. I got lucky enough to be chosen to have that experience and it was beautiful.
Wow. Very cool. So that was the beginning of the idea for the book, or
That was the first introduction. And then I got some more downloads that would come in the couple months afterwards that, hey, you have to do this. I'm very reluctant to tell my story because of the potential for being self-indulgent and things like that. I don't want things, it's not about me, it's about you. Your healing is about you. I keep telling folks, like, how many people do you think I've healed in my entire career? I've been at this 25 years and I've had people go, oh, thousands, 10,000, a lot, I'm like, one. And I don't know that I can really say that, only me.
right?
And really, I didn't do any of it. It was already pre-designed. So,
Mhm.
so I was very reluctant I'm always very reluctant I'm shy. It doesn't sound like it because I talk so much and I'm fine on stage, but I'm pretty shy. And but so this one was a push for me. This is God pushing, like, you have to tell your story. So I said, okay, well, I'll tell my story as long as it's still about the person. And that's where you're going to take a train ride with me in the book of questions. We're going to be one-on-one. We're going to be having some fun. And then I'm going to tell you a story from my life that's relevant to our conversation. And then at the end of that story, because stories spark stories, you're going to have a series of questions that you can go through to answer for yourself and start to learn how to embrace your heart's first thought. Because that to me is the voice of God coming into us. That's the divine voice. And I think what's interesting about this book too is it actually has a soundtrack with it as well, much like yours does.
Oh,
So we're
cool.
we're starting to get some interesting, synchronicity, aren't we?
God's doing some very cool stuff. There's all sorts of cool stuff coming.
Indeed, he is.
Very
Indeed, he
cool.
is.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being with me today and sharing everything. I always enjoy when we get to chat, and I know everybody watching today is going to love the information that they heard and where it's going to spark something in their heart or it's going to spark something in their being that tells them there's more than they really think there is and that they can actually be a healer themselves. And how they can get involved with everything that you and I and what we're doing, God's doing, and just keep moving forward towards that place of healing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
So
having me.
good.
It's always a pleasure, and I love talking with you too.
Thanks, Henry. All right. Thank you, Dr. H, for being with us today. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Stay tuned for the next Member Spotlight. Have a good one. Blessings, everybody. Bye bye.